Today, we are diving into something really special. Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic. Now, this isn't your typical how-to guide for being creative. No, this is more like a manifesto, a totally liberating new way to think about creativity. And honestly, it might just change how you see yourself. So let me just start by asking you something. Have you ever, caught yourself saying, "Oh, I'm just not a creative person"? That idea that creativity is this special thing reserved only for painters or musicians or professional writers.
Well, if that thought has ever crossed your mind, then you are in exactly the right place, because the whole promise of Big Magic is to completely blow up that idea and unlock a way of living that's way more curious and honestly a lot more fulfilling.
Okay, so what is this big magic? Think of it like this. It's the philosophy that creativity isn't some rare talent. It's a natural part of being human. It's about choosing to live a life that's driven by your curiosity instead of letting fear call all the shots. And this is the most important part, it's for everyone. For accountants, for parents, for engineers, not just a tiny group of people who get to call themselves artists.
So, how do we actually get into this mindset? Let's break down the core philosophy of Big Magic. It really all starts with just a few huge foundational ideas. First up is permission. And this one is a game changer. Gilbert argues that you don't need a fancy degree, you don't need an agent, you don't need anyone's approval to start creating something. If you are just curious about it, anything at all, that curiosity is your permission slip. It's all the validation you need to just begin. You literally have permission right now. And Gilbert's take on fear? It's just brilliant. See, she doesn't say you should try to crush your fear or pretend it's not there. Nope, you just acknowledge it. Think of it like a road trip. Fear is absolutely allowed in the car. It can come along for the ride. But you have to be super clear. Fear doesn't get to touch the radio, it doesn't choose the snacks, and it definitely does not get to drive. Your job is just to keep your hands on the wheel and keep driving. Next up is persistence. This one just shatters that old myth of the tortured artist, right? The one who's just waiting around for some lightning bolt of inspiration to strike. Gilbert's approach is way more down to earth. Creativity is a practice. It's about the discipline of just showing up day after day and doing the work, whether you feel inspired or not.
And this leads to one of the most, magical ideas in the whole book. Gilbert suggests that ideas are kind of like these living things floating around the universe, actively looking for a human collaborator to bring them to life. As she puts it, they're seeking the most available and willing human partners. Your only job is to be open and ready to say yes when one of them comes knocking on your door.
Okay, that philosophy is amazing, right? But how do we actually put it into practice in our real busy lives? So let's shift gears and get into the action plan and see how all this thinking actually turns into doing.
Step one is all about locking in those mental shifts we just talked about. So first, you stop waiting for someone else to give you permission. Second, you embrace imperfection. Good enough is your new best friend. And third, you consciously reframe fear's role. Remember, it's a passenger, not the pilot.
Now you build the habit. And look, this doesn't have to be some huge, life-altering commitment. We're talking 20 or 30 minutes a day. That's it. Write, draw, code, work in the garden, whatever your thing is. Maybe keep a little curiosity journal where you jot down things that spark your interest, with zero pressure for them to become the next big thing. The motto here is simple. Done is better than perfect. Just practice finishing things.
Protecting your creative energy is so important. And a huge part of that is learning to follow your curiosity, not just your passion. Curiosity is a much gentler, more playful guide. Passion can feel like this intense pressure, right? Also, you gotta set some real boundaries with all those digital distractions and try to surround yourself with people who actually get it and encourage your creative explorations. And what about when you inevitably get stuck? Because you will. It happens to everyone. Gilbert's advice is simple. Don't bang your head against the wall. If an idea just isn't working, you can graciously let it go and pivot to something else. Treat your creative work like play, not some high-stakes final exam. Failure isn't the end. It's just part of the process. It's data.
Finally, it's all about looking at the big picture. This isn't just about finishing one project. It's about building a creative lifestyle. Those little daily actions, they add up. They compound over time. Maybe you challenge yourself to finish 12 small projects in a year. Or maybe you just nurture a little side project that's just for you, with no pressure. This is how you build a creative practice that can last a lifetime.
So, after all of that, what does it all really add up to? What is the single most important message we should take away from Big Magic? If you remember just one thing, let it be this.
Creativity is not some mystical gift that only a few chosen people receive. Not at all. It's a choice. It's the simple but brave act of showing up day after day, staying curious, and letting yourself be playful, even when you're afraid. That is where the real magic happens.
And that really just leaves us with one last question for you to think about. If ideas really are out there, looking for a willing partner, what idea has been gently knocking on your door, just waiting for you to find the courage to finally say yes?